The rain had stopped an hour ago, leaving the streets of Seoul glistening under the yellow glow of streetlights. Tae-min pulled his jacket tighter as he walked home from the cafe where he had spent the last 6 hours coding. His eyes burned from staring at the screen, and his stomach rumbled. He had forgotten to eat again. The shopping district was still busy despite the late hour. People rushed past him, hurrying to catch the last trains or meet friends at late-night restaurants. Tae-min barely noticed them. He lived alone, worked alone, and mostly existed in his own quiet bubble. His parents had died in a car accident when he was 19. Since then, he had learned to be comfortable with solitude. He turned down a side street, taking a shortcut through the older part of the neighborhood. The buildings here were smaller, squeezed together like books on a shelf. The alley was darker than the main road, lit only by a flickering light above a closed grocery store. That was when he heard it. A soft, whimpering sound, like a hurt animal or a frightened child. Tae-min stopped walking. His first instinct was to keep going. Seoul had plenty of homeless people and street cats. Getting involved in strange situations late at night was never a good idea. But the sound came again, quieter this time, almost hopeless. He sighed and turned toward the noise. Behind a row of garbage bins, something moved in the shadows. Tae-min pulled out his phone and turned on the flashlight. A small figure huddled against the wall, knees pulled up to its chest. At first, Tae-min thought it was a child wearing strange makeup for some costume event. Then his brain caught up with what his eyes were seeing. The skin was wrong. It glowed faintly, a soft violet color that seemed to pulse with a dim inner light. The eyes were too large, with pupils that ran vertically like a cat's. Small crystal-like formations grew along the temples, catching his phone's light and reflecting it in dozens of tiny rainbows. This was not a human child. Tae-min's breath caught in his throat. His hand trembled, making the light shake. Every rational part of his mind screamed at him to run, to call the police, to do anything except stand there staring. The creature looked up at him with those enormous eyes. She was clearly terrified. Her small body shook, and she pressed herself harder against the wall, as if trying to disappear into it. One of her arms had an angry burn mark, the violet skin darker and cracked around the wound. She made a sound, a string of syllables in a language Tae-min had never heard. It sounded musical but desperate. She held something in her uninjured hand, a device that glowed with the same violet light as her skin. It pulsed in rhythm with what might have been her heartbeat. Tae-min slowly lowered his phone, trying not to make any sudden movements. His heart hammered in his chest. He should definitely be calling someone. The government, the military, scientists, someone who knew what to do with alien children hiding in Seoul alleys. But the look in her eyes stopped him. He recognized that fear. He had felt it himself once, a long time ago, sitting in a hospital waiting room while doctors told him his parents were gone. The feeling of being completely alone in a world that suddenly made no sense. He held up his hands, palms out, showing he was unarmed. The creature watched him warily. Tae-min spoke softly in Korean, though he knew she could not understand the words. "It's okay. I won't hurt you." She tilted her head slightly, those strange eyes studying him. Tae-min slowly shrugged off his jacket. The night was cool and she was shivering. He held it out toward her, moving very carefully. The alien child stared at the jacket, then at his face. After a long moment, she reached out and took it with her good hand. She pulled it around her small shoulders and some of the shaking stopped. Tae-min sat down on the dirty ground, putting himself at her level. Less threatening this way. He pulled a bottle of water from his bag and opened it, taking a small sip to show it was safe, then offered it to her. She hesitated, then took the bottle. She sniffed it cautiously before drinking. The way she held the bottle was slightly off, her grip different from a human child's, but she managed. They sat there in the alley for several minutes, the alien child drinking water while Taemin tried to figure out what to do. She seemed to relax slightly, though her eyes never left him. Taemin opened the Notes app on his phone and used his finger to draw a simple stick figure. He pointed at himself, then at the drawing. Then he drew another figure, smaller, and pointed at her. She watched with interest. When he handed her the phone, she stared at it like it was a magical object. After a moment, she touched the screen with one finger. The drawing app responded, and her eyes widened. She drew something quickly, a symbol that looked like flowing water, then pointed at the device in her other hand. The device projected a hologram into the air between them. Taemin jerked back in surprise. The image showed a taller figure with similar features to the child, clearly an adult of her species. The child pointed at the hologram, then at the sky, then made a cradling motion with her arms. Mother. She was looking for her mother. The hologram shifted, showing what looked like a damaged spacecraft. Then it showed the child and the adult figure separating, the adult pointing one way while pushing the child another direction. The child's eyes filled with something that looked like tears, though they were more luminous than human tears, leaving faint, glowing trails down her cheeks. Taemin felt his chest tighten, lost, alone. Scared, looking for her mother in a world that was completely alien to her. How long had she been hiding in this alley? How badly was she hurt? He made a decision that he knew was probably stupid. He stood up slowly and gestured for her to follow him. She clutched his jacket tighter and stared at him with uncertainty. Taemin pointed at the burn on her arm, then mimed wrapping it with bandages. He pointed down the street toward his apartment, then made a sleeping gesture with his hands against his cheek. The alien child looked at the device in her hand. It pulsed once, twice. She seemed to be thinking hard. Finally, she nodded slowly and stood up. As they walked out of the alley together, Taemin noticed the scorch marks on the pavement that he had missed before. Whatever had happened here, it had been violent. The air still smelled strange, like burning metal mixed with something sweet and alien. He glanced at the small figure walking beside him, swimming in his too large jacket. What had he just gotten himself into? This was beyond anything he had ever imagined. There were protocols for this sort of thing, surely. Government agencies, international organizations. But looking down at her frightened face, he knew he had made the right choice, at least for tonight. She needed help, and he was here. Tomorrow he would figure out the rest. The alien child looked up at him and made a soft sound, almost like a question. Taemin smiled despite everything and nodded. They disappeared into the night together. Two lost souls who had found each other in the most impossible way. Taemin's apartment was small and cluttered with computer equipment. Books and cables covered most surfaces, and empty coffee cups formed small towers on his desk. He suddenly felt embarrassed about the mess as he unlocked the door and let the alien child inside. She stepped through the doorway carefully, her large eyes scanning everything. When Taemin turned on the lights, she flinched and made a small sound. He quickly dimmed them using the wall switch, and she relaxed. The child moved through his apartment like she was exploring a museum. She touched the light switch, flipping it on and off repeatedly, fascinated by how it worked. She stared at the refrigerator with its humming motor. When Taemin turned on the kitchen tap, she jumped back, then approached it slowly, letting the water run over her fingers. Taemin watched her, his mind racing. He needed to treat her burn, give her something to eat, and figure out what to do next. But first, he needed to establish more communication. He gently took her arm and led her to the bathroom. The burn looked worse under the bright light, the violet skin cracked and weeping a clear fluid. He pulled out his first aid kit and showed her the antiseptic cream and bandages. She watched him carefully as he cleaned the wound. She winced, but did not pull away. Her trust in him was both touching and terrifying. What if he was making everything worse? What if human medicine hurt her? But she seemed relieved once the bandage was on. She touched it gently, then looked up at him and made a sound that could have been thank you in any language. Tae-min led her to the living room and offered her the couch. She sat down, still clutching the glowing device. He brought her water and some plain rice crackers, not knowing what was safe for her to eat. She nibbled one cautiously, made a face, but ate it anyway, clearly hungry. While she ate, Tae-min sat at his computer and opened every translation program he could find. He also pulled up his video editing software and pattern recognition tools. If he could record her language and analyze it, maybe he could start building a basic translation system. The alien child watched him work with intense interest. After a while, she came to stand beside his chair, looking at the screen. Tae-min pointed at himself and said clearly, "Tae-min." She tilted her head. He repeated it several times, pointing at himself each time. Tae-min. She tried to copy the sound, but it came out strange through her different vocal structure. Ta-min. He grinned and nodded. Then he pointed at her with a questioning look. She made a sound, a flowing sequence of syllables that Tae-min's mouth could not possibly reproduce. He tried anyway and failed completely. She made that sound again that might have been laughter. Tae-min thought for a moment, then said, Gina. It was a simple Korean name, easy to say. The child seemed to like the J sound. She repeated it back to him and he nodded. Not her real name, but something they could both use. Gina, he said again, pointing at her. She smiled for the first time, and it transformed her face. They spent the next hour building a basic vocabulary. Tae-min would point at objects and say the Korean word. Gina would repeat it, then show him the hologram from her device with the symbol or image from her language. Water. Light. Food. Help. Friend. The device was fascinating. It seemed to understand what Gina wanted to show and projected the appropriate images. As they worked, Tae-min noticed it was damaged. Parts of the casing were cracked, and sometimes the holograms flickered. Gina suddenly touched a specific part of the device, and a larger hologram appeared. Tae-min's breath caught. It showed Gina with the adult figure he had seen before, clearly her mother. They were inside what looked like a spacecraft, though the design was unlike anything from human science fiction. Organic curves and crystalline panels that glowed with soft light. The hologram shifted to show the ship shaking violently. Alarms flashed in colors Tae-min had never seen before. The mother grabbed Gina and ran through corridors. Then an explosion, and they were separated. The mother pointed one direction, pushing Gina another way, her face desperate. Gina touched the hologram, trying to reach the image of her mother. The gesture was so human, so universal, that Tae-min felt tears sting his eyes. The hologram changed again, showing what looked like a star map. Tae-min had no idea how to read it, but then it showed Earth, rotating slowly, with a blinking point of light somewhere on the Korean peninsula. That must be where they were now. Another blinking light appeared in the mountains to the east. Gangwon Province, maybe 200 kilometers away. Gina pointed at it, then at the image of her mother. She was there, or at least that was where Gina thought she might be. Then the hologram showed something that made Tae-min's stomach drop. A countdown. The symbols were alien, but the concept was universal. Numbers decreasing, time running out. He counted the segments and did rough math in his head. 6 days, maybe less. What happens when it reaches 0? He asked, knowing she could not understand. Gina showed him another image, a massive ship appearing in space near Earth, but she looked frightened when she showed it. Not happy. The ship was either rescue or something else. Something bad. Tae-min sat back, running his hands through his hair. This was so much bigger than he had thought. A crashed alien ship, a missing mother, a countdown to something. And now he was responsible for this child who was depending on him. Gina must have seen the worry on his face. She touched his hand gently with her small fingers. The contact was warm, warmer than human skin. She said something in her language, and though he did not understand the words, the meaning was clear. "Thank you. Please help." Taemin looked at her determined little face and made his decision. He would help her find her mother. He had no idea how, but he would try. While Gina curled up on the couch, exhausted, Taemin stayed up searching the internet. He used every search term he could think of. Strange lights, unusual phenomena, unexplained events in Korea. Most of what he found was nonsense, conspiracy theories and blurry photos of obvious fakes. But a few things caught his attention. Reports of strange lights over the mountains in Gangwon province 3 days ago. Several mentions of electromagnetic interference in that area. A few military helicopters seen searching the forests. The government knew something. They had to, but they were keeping it quiet. Taemin also found posts from hikers and farmers talking about seeing unusual burns on trees and rocks, scorch marks that did not match any known fire, and one post from someone claiming they had heard an explosion, but no one believed them. It all pointed to the same area, the same place where Gina's device showed her mother might be. As dawn began to lighten the sky, Taemin finally allowed himself to rest. He looked at Gina sleeping on his couch, wrapped in a blanket. She looked so small and vulnerable. Her skin's glow had dimmed during sleep, and the crystal formations at her temples looked dull. He thought about his own childhood, the hospital, the social workers, the feeling of being completely lost. He had survived because a few people had been kind to him. His grandmother who took him in, his teacher, who made sure he ate lunch, small acts of kindness that had saved his life. Now it was his turn to be that person for someone else. Taemin pulled out his phone and sent a text to his friend Hyun-woo. "Need to see you today. It's urgent. Bring your electronics equipment." He did not know if Hyun-woo would help once he knew the truth. But Taemin could not do this alone. He needed someone who understood technology, someone who might be able to repair or understand Gina's device. The sun rose over Seoul, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. Taemin watched it through his window, feeling like he was standing on the edge of something vast and terrifying. His life had been simple yesterday, lonely but predictable. Now he had an alien child sleeping on his couch and a mission to find her mother before some unknown deadline ran out. He should be terrified, and he was. But underneath the fear was something else. Purpose. For the first time in years, Taemin felt like his life actually mattered. He looked at Gina one more time, then went to his computer to plan their next steps. They had 6 days. No time to waste. Hyun-woo arrived at noon carrying a large toolbox and looking suspicious. He was Taemin's oldest friend, a former military communications specialist who now ran a small electronics repair shop. If anyone could help understand alien technology, it would be him. "This better be important," Hyun-woo said as Taemin let him in. "You sounded weird on the phone, and you never ask for help with anything." "It's important," Taemin said. He took a deep breath. "But you have to promise not to panic." "Why would I panic?" Gina chose that moment to walk out of the bedroom. She had been hiding, but Taemin had told her Hyun-woo was a friend. She wore one of Taemin's hoodies with the hood pulled up, but her face was clearly visible. Her violet skin glowed softly in the apartment's dim light, and her large eyes fixed on Hyun-woo with curiosity and fear. Hyun-woo dropped his toolbox. It hit the floor with a loud crash, but he did not seem to notice. He stared at Gina with his mouth open, all color draining from his face. "That's why," Taemin said quietly. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then Hyun-woo slowly raised his hands, palms out, in the universal gesture of peace. Gina copied the gesture, and something in Hyunwoo's face softened. "Is she real?" he whispered. "Very real." "And she's living in your apartment?" "For 2 days now." Hyunwoo walked slowly closer, moving like he was approaching a scared animal. Gina watched him but did not retreat. When he was a few feet away, he crouched down to her level. "Hello," he said in Korean, then repeated it in English. "Hello?" Gina tilted her head, then said carefully, "Hello." Hyunwoo's face broke into a huge grin. She can talk. She's learning Korean. This is incredible. This is absolutely incredible. He looked at Taemin with wild eyes. "Do you understand what this means? This is first contact, actual aliens. This is the biggest thing that has ever happened to humanity." "It's also a child who is lost and scared," Taemin said firmly. "She needs our help finding her mother." That sobered Hyunwoo quickly. He listened as Taemin explained everything: the crash, the separation, the countdown, the device. When Taemin showed him the holographic projections, Hyunwoo's hands shook with excitement and wonder. "This technology is decades beyond anything we have," he breathed, examining the device without touching it. "Maybe centuries beyond. The power source alone would revolutionize everything we know about energy." "Can you track the signal?" Taemin asked. "Can you find her mother?" Hyunwoo pulled out his equipment and got to work. He used several different scanners, measuring electromagnetic frequencies and other signals that Taemin did not understand. Gina watched with intense focus, occasionally touching her device to show him different displays. After an hour, Hyunwoo sat back with a strange expression. "There's a signal. Faint, but definitely there. It's coming from the mountains in Gangwon Province, exactly where you thought. About 200 kilometers northeast. Can we reach it?" "That's not the problem." Hyunwoo's face was serious now. "The problem is that if I can detect this signal, other people can too. Military, intelligence agencies. They have much better equipment than I do. Taemin, you need to understand. There are probably people already looking for this. Looking for her." Taemin felt cold. He had known this was possible, but hearing it out loud made it real. "We need to move fast then," he said. "Are you crazy? You should turn her over to the government. Let professionals handle this. And if those professionals decide to keep her, study her, what happens to her mother then?" Hyunwoo was quiet for a long time. Finally, he sighed. "You're going to get yourself killed or arrested. Probably both." He stood up and started packing his equipment. "I'll help you get supplies, radio equipment, camping gear, food. You'll need a car." "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet. This is the most illegal thing I've ever done, and I was in military intelligence." He looked at Gina, who was watching them both. "But yeah, I can't just leave a kid lost and alone, even if she's from another planet." 2 hours later, Taemin had rented a car and loaded it with supplies. He dressed Gina in warm clothes with a hood and mask, hoping she could pass for a human child at a distance. The gloves hid her different hands, and the hood covered her crystal formations. "Stay close to me," he told her in simple Korean. "Hide your face. People will be scared if they see you." She nodded, understanding more than she could speak. They left Seoul in the late afternoon, heading northeast toward the mountains. Hyunwoo had given them detailed maps with the signal location marked. He had also given Taemin a radio tuned to emergency frequencies. "If you get in real trouble, call for help," Hyunwoo had said. "I'll be monitoring. I'll do what I can." The drive was long. Gina sat in the passenger seat, staring out the window at the world passing by. Everything was new to her: the cars, the buildings, the people. She pointed at things and asked questions in her language, and Taemin tried to answer in simple Korean words she was learning. They stopped at a rest area for gas and food. Taemin bought rice balls and juice, hoping it was safe for her to eat. While he was paying, Gina wandered to the window and watched children playing outside. A small boy ran past, chasing a ball. He laughed, and Gina made a soft sound. Taemin realized she must be lonely for others like her, for normal childhood things. "Soon," he promised her. "We'll find your mother soon. 4 days left." As they got back on the road, Taemin noticed a black car parked at the far end of the rest area. A man in a dark suit stood beside it, talking on a phone while watching them. When Taemin pulled out, the car followed. His heart started pounding. "Gina, stay low. Don't let them see you." She crouched down immediately, understanding the urgency in his voice. The device in her lap suddenly flashed with a red symbol Taemin had not seen before. A warning. The black car stayed behind them for 30 kilometers, matching their speed. Taemin tried turning onto smaller roads, and the car followed. He sped up, and it sped up. His hands gripped the steering wheel so tight they hurt. They were being hunted. As they entered the mountain roads, Taemin made a sudden decision. He knew these roads from childhood trips with his parents. There was an old trail that few people used anymore, hidden behind some trees. He waited until they were around a curve where the black car could not see them, then slammed on the brakes and turned hard onto the trail. The car bounced over rough ground, branches scraping the sides, but it was hidden from the main road. They waited, barely breathing. The black car drove past, not slowing down. It disappeared around the next curve. Taemin let out a shaky breath. "Close. That was too close." Gina's device was pulsing faster now. She pointed ahead, deeper into the forest. The signal was stronger. They were getting close. But Taemin knew they could not drive further. The trail was too rough and the car would get stuck or damaged. They would have to continue on foot. He grabbed the backpack with supplies and helped Gina out of the car. The forest was thick and dark, even though the sun had not set yet. The trees here were old and tall, blocking out much of the light. "This way," he said, following the direction Gina's device indicated. They walked for an hour through increasingly difficult terrain. Gina struggled sometimes, her shorter legs having trouble with the rough ground. Taemin carried her when she got too tired, feeling her warmth against his back. As the sun began to set, they reached a ravine. Gina suddenly stopped, staring ahead with wide eyes. Her device pulsed so fast it was almost a solid light. "What is it?" Taemin asked. Gina pointed down into the ravine. At first, Taemin saw nothing. Then, as his eyes adjusted, he saw the shimmer. Something was there, but it was nearly invisible. Camouflage technology far beyond anything humans had. They climbed carefully down the ravine slope. As they got closer, the camouflage flickered, and Taemin could see pieces of the spacecraft, curved panels of an unknown material, crystalline sections that still glowed faintly, scattered debris that looked both technological and organic. Gina ran forward, calling out in her language. "Anna! Anna!" The word for mother. Taemin had learned it yesterday, but there was no answer. The crash site was empty and silent except for the wind in the trees. They had found the ship, but Gina's mother was gone. Gina ran through the wreckage calling for her mother, her voice growing more desperate with each cry. Taemin followed, his heart breaking for her. The spacecraft was scattered across the ravine in pieces, some small as his hand, others large as a car. Everything had an otherworldly beauty to it, even destroyed. "Gina, wait," he called gently. "Let's look carefully." She stopped, breathing hard, her eyes bright with unshed tears. Together they searched the crash site. The main section of the ship was partially buried in the hillside, its entrance torn open. Taemin pulled out his phone and turned on the flashlight. Inside was like nothing he had ever imagined. The walls curved in smooth, organic shapes. Panels glowed with dying light. Strange symbols covered surfaces. Everything was both beautiful and sad. A home destroyed. Gina moved through the ship like she knew every corner. She touched things gently, murmuring in her language. Taemin followed, giving her space to grieve. In what might have been a living area, they found signs someone had been here recently, blankets made from material that felt like silk but stronger. Empty containers that might have held food, medical supplies scattered on the floor. Gina's device suddenly activated on its own, projecting a large hologram. It showed her mother, the adult alien woman, standing in this very room. She was clearly injured, one arm hanging uselessly at her side. Her crystal formations were cracked and dim, but she was alive. The hologram spoke in that musical language. Gina listened with complete focus, tears streaming down her face. Taemin could not understand the words, but he saw images appear alongside them. The mother explaining what happened, pointing at her injuries, showing a map with a new location marked. An old building deep in the mountains. A temple, Taemin realized. One of the ancient Buddhist temples that dotted Korea's mountain ranges. The mother looked directly at the camera, as if she could see Gina through time. She said something, and even without translation, Taemin heard the love and fear in it. Stay safe. Be brave. I will find you. Then the message showed something that made Taemin's blood run cold. Dark shapes moving through the forest. Creatures that blended with shadows, moving with terrible purpose. Hunters. The mother's face filled with fear. She pointed at herself, then at the temple location. She was going to hide there. She gestured urgently, warning of danger. The creatures were tracking them. Both of them. The hologram ended. Gina stood frozen, her small hands clenched into fists. Then she turned to Taemin and spoke rapidly in her language, pointing at the holographic map still floating in the air. I understand, Taemin said, though he was not sure he did. Your mother went to a temple. We need to find her. Gina nodded hard. She pulled at his sleeve, urgent now. They needed to move. As they climbed out of the ravine, Taemin heard something. A rustling in the trees that was not wind. He froze, putting a hand on Gina's shoulder to stop her. Someone's there, he whispered. A figure stepped out from behind a tree, making them both jump. But it was not a man in a black suit or one of those shadow creatures from the hologram. It was a woman in a ranger's uniform, holding a rifle loosely at her side. She looked at them with sharp, intelligent eyes. She was in her early 30s, with short, practical hair and a face that showed she spent most of her time outdoors. I thought I might find someone here eventually, she said calmly. I'm Da-Yun. I'm a wildlife ranger for this area. I've been watching this crash site for 3 days, trying to decide what to do about it. Taemin put himself between Da-Yun and Gina protectively. Please, we're not trying to cause trouble. We just need to pass through. Da-Yun looked past him at Gina, who was peering out from behind Taemin's back. The ranger's expression softened. She's the one from the ship, isn't she? The child. I saw surveillance footage of 2 figures near the crash. One large, one small. The small one was missing when I first found this place. Please don't report us, Taemin said. She's just trying to find her mother. Da-Yun was quiet for a moment. Then she lowered her rifle completely, showing she meant no harm. I'm not going to report you. If I wanted to do that, I would have done it days ago. I've been trying to figure out if this was a danger to people or something else. Something else, Taemin said. The mother went to Woljong Temple, didn't she? The old ruins deeper in the mountains. Taemin stared. How did you know? Because I've been tracking strange signs through the forest, broken branches, unusual footprints, burn marks on trees, all heading that direction, and I've seen other things too. Da-Yun's face grew serious. Things that worry me more than aliens looking for each other. She pulled out a small notebook and showed them sketches. Taimin's stomach turned. The drawings showed creatures like nothing from Earth. Sleek, predatory shapes. Too many limbs. Faces that were wrong in ways his brain refused to process. Gina made a sound of pure terror when she saw the sketches. She grabbed Taimin's arm hard, her fingers digging in. "You've seen these things?" Taimin asked Da-un. "Twice, once at distance, once closer than I liked. They move like nothing I've ever encountered. Silent, fast, hunting. I put 5 bullets into one, and it barely slowed down. I've been trying to track them, trying to understand what they are." "They're hunting Gina and her mother," Taimin said quietly. "They followed them to Earth." Da-un looked at Gina with new understanding and pity. "Then we need to move fast, because those things have been circling closer to Woljong Temple for the past day. If her mother is there, she's in danger." "You'll help us? I know these mountains better than anyone, and those creatures have been killing wildlife and disturbing the natural balance. I don't know what they are, but they don't belong here." Da-un shouldered her rifle properly. "Besides, I can't just leave a child alone and scared no matter what planet she's from." The 3 of them started moving deeper into the forest. Da-un led the way, taking paths that would be invisible to anyone else. She moved like a ghost through the trees, and Taimin struggled to keep up. Gina managed better, her alien physiology giving her better balance and endurance than her size suggested. As they walked, Da-un pointed out signs. Claw marks on trees that were too high for any earth animal. Burn marks that formed patterns, as if from energy weapons. Places where the ground looked scorched by something that burned hotter than any natural fire. "I've been a ranger for 8 years, Da-un said quietly. "I know every animal in these mountains, every plant, every sound. These things are wrong, they don't fit. They're invasive species in the worst possible way." Night fell, and the forest grew dark and cold. Gina was shivering despite the warm clothes. Taimin noticed her skin's glow was dimmer than before. She was weakening. "Is she okay?" Da-un asked. "I don't know. I think being away from her ship is making her sick. Or maybe it's our air, our bacteria." Taimin felt helpless. She needs her mother. She needs her own people. They stopped to rest in a small cave Da-un knew about. She built a tiny fire, barely large enough for warmth. Gina huddled close to it, and Taimin wrapped her in his jacket and a blanket. The device in Gina's hand pulsed weakly. She touched it, and a small hologram appeared. A countdown. Taimin had been trying not to think about it, but now he had to face it. 2 days left. 48 hours until whatever was coming arrived. "What happens when that reaches 0? Da-un asked. "I don't know," Taimin admitted. "It could be rescue, or it could be something worse." Gina whispered something in her language. She showed them a hologram of a massive ship arriving at Earth. Then she showed the hunter creatures. Then she showed destruction. "If the hunters reach her mother first," Taimin said slowly, understanding, "then no one will be left to turn off the beacon, and whoever arrives might think Earth is hostile, or the hunters might use the beacon to call their own ships. So we need to reach the mother, keep her safe, and hope the right people show up," Da-un summarized. "No pressure." Through the cave opening, they heard a sound, distant but clear. Something moving through the forest. Something large. Da-un went to the cave entrance and looked out carefully. When she came back, her face was pale. "They're closer than I thought. At least 3 of them moving in formation, hunting." "Hunting us?" "Hunting the signal from her device. They can track it somehow." Gina looked at her device, then at Taimin. She spoke urgently in her language, pointing at herself, then away from them. "No!" Taimin said firmly, understanding what she was suggesting. "We're not splitting up. We stay together." Gina shook her head, speaking faster. She showed them a hologram, the hunters tracking her device. If she went one direction, they would follow. Taimin and Da-un could reach the temple another way. She's right, Da-un said reluctantly. If she draws them away, we might have a chance to reach her mother and set up a defense. Absolutely not, Tai-min said. She's a child. I'm not using her as bait. But Gina was already standing up. She looked at Tai-min with those huge eyes, and he saw determination there. Courage. She was terrified, but she was going to do this anyway. She touched his hand and said in careful Korean, "Mother, save." Mother. Tai-min felt tears burn his eyes. Gina, please. She smiled sadly, then turned and ran out of the cave before he could stop her. Her device glowed brighter, deliberately making itself more visible, a beacon in the dark forest. Tai-min started to run after her, but Da-un grabbed his arm. Let her go. She's buying us time. Don't waste it. In the distance, they heard the hunters change direction, moving toward Gina's signal, away from them. We need to reach the temple now, Da-un said, before those things realize it's a trick, before they hurt her. Tai-min stood frozen, watching Gina's glowing form disappear into the dark trees. Every instinct screamed at him to follow her, to protect her, but she had made her choice. Come on, Da-un urged. The best way to help her is to reach her mother. They ran through the night forest, leaving Gina alone in the darkness with monsters on her trail. Tai-min and Da-un ran through the forest, using only moonlight to guide them. Every sound made Tai-min's heart race. Every shadow looked like one of those creatures. He kept thinking about Gina alone in the dark, being chased by things that wanted to kill her. Focus, Da-un said sharply, seeing his distraction. If you fall and break your leg, we can't help anyone. She was right. But it did not make it easier. They climbed steep slopes and crossed narrow streams. Da-un moved with practiced ease, but Tai-min struggled. His legs burned and his lungs felt like fire. After 2 hours, they reached a ridge. Below them, nestled in a valley, stood the ruins of Woljong Temple. The old stone walls were crumbling, and many of the buildings had collapsed. But the main temple structure still stood, proud against the moonlit sky. There, Da-un pointed. That's where her mother should be. They descended carefully. The temple grounds were eerily quiet. No animals, no insects, nothing. Just silence that felt wrong. Tai-min called out softly, "Hello? We're friends. We're here to help." No response. They searched through the outer buildings first. Storage rooms filled with broken statues. Living quarters where monks once slept. Everything was empty and abandoned. Then Da-un found the entrance to an underground chamber, stone steps leading down into darkness. She and Tai-min looked at each other, then started descending. The air grew colder as they went deeper. Tai-min's phone flashlight cut through the darkness, showing stone walls covered in ancient carvings. At the bottom was a larger chamber, probably used for storage or meditation long ago. And there, in the far corner, was Gina's mother. She was curled up against the wall, barely moving. Her violet skin was pale and cracked. The crystal formations on her head were almost completely dark. She looked up as they entered, and Tai-min saw the same large eyes as Gina, but filled with pain and exhaustion. We're here to help, Tai-min said quickly, holding up his hands. Gina sent us, your daughter. At the sound of that name, the alien woman's eyes went wide. She tried to stand but collapsed. Tai-min rushed forward to catch her. She was lighter than he expected and burning hot with fever. She spoke urgently in her language, grabbing Tai-min's shirt. He could not understand the words, but the meaning was clear. Where is she? Where is my daughter? She's safe, he lied, hoping it was true. She's coming. We need to help you first. Da-un pulled out her first aid kit, but they both knew human medicine probably would not work. The alien woman's injuries were severe. One arm was badly damaged, the skin blackened. Several of her crystal formations were broken off, leaving raw wounds. The woman reached for something at her side, a device similar to Gina's but larger. She activated it with shaking hands. A hologram appeared, showing medical symbols and diagrams. She was trying to show them how to help her. Dayun studied the hologram carefully. I think this shows where her wounds are and what needs to be done. Taemin, there are supplies in that bag over there. Bring them. They worked together, following the hologram's instructions as best they could. The alien woman had medical supplies that sealed wounds with some kind of gel that hardened like crystal. They applied it carefully, and she seemed to relax slightly. Through gestures and simple drawings, they established communication. Her name was Enara. She had been hiding here for 3 days, too injured to move far. She had been hoping Gina would find the message in the ship and come here. When Taemin explained that Gina was drawing the hunters away, Enara's face showed pure anguish. She tried to stand again, desperate to go to her daughter. But her body would not obey. We need to bring Gina here, Taemin said to Daun. She can't stay out there alone. I'll go, Daun said. You stay with the mother. If those creatures find this place, you need to protect her. You can't go alone. I'm a ranger. I know these mountains. I can move fast and quiet. Daun checked her rifle. Just give me 2 hours. If I'm not back by then, you need to run. Before Taemin could argue, they heard something outside, a sound like metal scraping on stone. Then another sound, like a predator's hiss. Dayun moved to the stairs, looking up. They're here. The hunters found us. Taemin felt his blood turn to ice. Enara grabbed his arm weakly, pointing at her device. She activated something, and suddenly a shimmering barrier appeared across the entrance to the underground chamber, a shield. How long will that hold? Taemin asked, though he knew she could not answer. The scraping sound came closer. Footsteps on the stone floor above, multiple sets. The hunters were inside the temple. Dayun raised her rifle, aiming at the stairs. Taemin grabbed a heavy piece of broken stone, the only weapon he had. Enara touched her device again, and suddenly something appeared in Taemin's hand, a small weapon, sleek and alien. She showed him through gestures how to aim and fire. The first hunter appeared at the top of the stairs. In the light from their devices, Taemin finally saw one clearly. It was like something from a nightmare, tall and thin with too many joints in its limbs. Its skin was black and reflective, like an insect's shell. The head was elongated with multiple eyes that glowed red. When it opened its mouth, there were too many teeth. Daun fired. The bullet hit the creature's chest and bounced off with a spark. The hunter hissed and moved down the stairs with horrifying speed. Taemin pointed the alien weapon and pulled the trigger. A bolt of blue energy shot out and hit the hunter square in the chest. This time, it screamed and fell back. The weapon worked where bullets did not. But there were more. 2 more hunters appeared at the stairs. They tested the shield barrier with claws that sparked against the energy field. The shield held, but Taemin could see it flickering. It won't last long, he said. Enara was working frantically with her device. She showed them a hologram of the countdown, 12 hours left. If they could survive 12 hours, rescue might come. 12 hours against creatures that could barely be hurt by human weapons. Against hunters that were designed to kill beings like Enara and Gina. The hunters began coordinating their attacks, hitting the shield at the same time. Each impact made it flicker more. They were methodical and patient, testing for weaknesses. We need another plan, Daun said. She was looking around the chamber. Is there another exit? A way out? Enara shook her head. They were trapped. Then they heard a new sound from above, a small voice calling out in that musical alien language. Gina's voice. No, 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 no. Taemin ran to the stairs. Above, through the shield, he could see the temple entrance. Gina stood there, her device glowing brightly. She was drawing the hunter's attention deliberately. "Gina, run!" he shouted. But she did not run. She raised her device and activated something. A pulse of energy shot out, hitting one of the hunters and throwing it across the temple floor. The other hunters turned toward her, forgetting about the shield. They moved toward the entrance, toward the small figure that should have been easy prey. But Gina was not running. She was fighting. She was tiny and weak and should have been helpless, but she used her device like a weapon, sending out pulses of energy. She moved with unexpected speed, dodging when the hunters lunged at her. She was buying them time, drawing the hunters away from her mother. Inara screamed her daughter's name, trying to stand, trying to go to her, but her body failed her. "I'm going up there," Taimin said. "That's suicide," Da-un replied. "I don't care." He ran up the stairs, dropping the shield as he went. The alien weapon was heavy in his hand. He had no training, no experience, but he was not going to let Gina die alone. He burst into the temple proper and saw chaos. Gina was backed against a wall, 3 hunters closing in on her. Her device was smoking, damaged from overuse. She looked exhausted, barely able to stand. Taimin fired the alien weapon. One shot, then another, then another. He hit one hunter in the back, and it turned toward him with those terrible red eyes. Da-un came up behind him, firing her rifle to distract the others. "Gina, come here!" she shouted. Gina ran toward them, stumbling with exhaustion. Taimin grabbed her and pulled her behind him. She was burning up with fever, her skin's glow almost gone. "Stay behind me," he told her. "I've got you." The hunters regrouped, all 3 focusing on them now. They moved with deadly coordination, surrounding them on 3 sides. The temple entrance was behind them. But running would mean leaving Inara alone. They were trapped. One hunter lunged. Taimin fired, hitting it in the leg. It stumbled but kept coming. Da-un shot it in what might have been its face, and finally, it fell. 2 left. But Taimin's weapon was blinking, running out of power. The hunters seemed to sense their weakness. They moved closer, taking their time, playing with their prey. Gina whispered something in her language, a word that sounded like a prayer or a goodbye. Taimin stood between her and the hunters, even though he knew it was useless. His weapon was dead. Da-un was down to her last few bullets. They were going to die here. But at least they would die together. At least Gina would not be alone. The hunters prepared to strike. And then the night sky above the temple exploded with light. A massive ship appeared, dropping through the clouds like a falling star. It was beautiful and terrible, covered in the same violet glow as Gina's skin. Beams of light shot down from the ship, hitting the 2 hunters. They did not even have time to scream. One moment they existed, the next they were simply gone, turned to ash. Figures began appearing in the temple, teleporting down in flashes of light. Tall aliens like Inara, but healthy and strong, wearing armor that glowed. Soldiers. They moved through the temple with practiced efficiency, checking for more threats. One approached Taimin, speaking in that musical language. Another went to Gina, scanning her with a device. Gina pointed down the stairs, speaking urgently. The soldiers rushed down to help Inara. Taimin sank to his knees, the adrenaline leaving his body all at once. They were safe. They had survived. Gina hugged him tightly, and he held her back, both of them shaking with relief and exhaustion. "You're so brave," he whispered. "So incredibly brave." She looked up at him with those huge eyes and smiled. Then she said in careful Korean, You too, friend." The Narration soldiers worked quickly and efficiently. They brought medical equipment from their ship and attended to Inara's wounds with technology that made human medicine look primitive. Within minutes, her color began returning. The cracks in her crystal formations sealed themselves. She was still weak, but no longer dying. Gina refused to leave her mother's side, holding her hand tightly. Inara kept touching her daughter's face, speaking softly in their language. The love between them was so clear, It needed no translation. A Nairim soldier approached Taimin and Daun. He was tall, even more than En-Ara, with elaborate crystal formations that marked him as important. He wore armor that seemed to be made of living light. When he spoke, a device on his chest translated into Korean. "I am Commander Velthar. You protected our people. This is noted." His voice through the translator was formal, but not unfriendly. "We detected the distress beacon 3 days ago. We came as fast as we could." "The hunters," Taimin said. "Are they all gone?" "We eliminated 6 creche in this area. There may be more scattered across your world. We are searching now." Velthar's expression grew serious. "The creche are a plague. They hunt refugee ships, eliminating survivors before they can make contact with new worlds. They wish to keep civilizations isolated and afraid." "Why?" Daun asked. "Because unity is dangerous to predators. A galaxy of connected cooperative species cannot be hunted and controlled." Velthar looked at the ruined temple around them. "Your world is not ready for this knowledge. We should not be here, but we will not abandon our people." More soldiers brought equipment to scan the area. They worked in silence, their movements coordinated like a well-trained team. One approached with a device that scanned Taimin from head to toe. "This one has been treated with our medical technology," the soldier reported. "His cellular structure has been altered, enhanced." Taimin blinked. "What does that mean?" "When we healed your wounds, our technology did more than just seal them," Velthar explained. "It integrated with your cells. You will heal faster now. Think more clearly. Live longer. These changes cannot be undone." Taimin looked at his hands. He did not feel different, but maybe he would notice over time. "Is that bad?" "It is neither good nor bad. It simply is." Velthar paused. "But it means you are connected to us now. Your life has been touched by something beyond your world." En-Ara was helped up by 2 soldiers. She was still weak, but could walk with support. She came to Taimin and spoke in her language. The translator device rendered her words into Korean. "You protected my daughter. You risked everything for a stranger from another world. How can I ever repay such a debt?" "You don't need to repay anything," Taimin said. "Gina is my friend. That's all that matters." En-Ara reached out and touched his face gently, a gesture that seemed to have deep meaning in her culture. "You gave me back my child. You have shown us that humanity, though young, has great potential. Great kindness." Gina came forward and hugged Taimin tightly. She was still weak from fever and exhaustion, but her eyes were bright. She had been through so much, but she had survived. They both had. "The problem is now political," Velthar said. "Your government will have detected our ship. They will have questions. We must leave before this becomes an incident. Your world is not ready for open contact." "What about the crash site?" Daun asked. "The evidence?" "We will clean everything, remove all traces. The official story will be a meteor strike or military exercise. Your government may suspect the truth, but they will have no proof." Velthar looked at Taimin and Daun seriously. "You 2 witnessed everything. We can erase your memories if you prefer. Many find that easier." "No," Taimin said immediately. "I want to remember. All of it." "As do I," Daun added. "Someone should know the truth. Someone should remember." Velthar nodded slowly. "Very well, but you must understand the burden you carry. You will know things your world is not ready to accept. You will see the stars differently. You will never be quite the same." "I'm already not the same," Taimin said, looking at Gina, "and I don't want to forget her." Gina seemed to understand even through the language barrier. She smiled up at him, then pulled out her damaged device. She touched it, and a hologram appeared. It was a picture she had made, a drawing of her and Taimin together, Two figures holding hands, one violet and glowing, one human. At the bottom, she had written the word friend in both her language and Korean. She transferred the image to his phone somehow, alien technology making the impossible easy. Keep, she said in Korean. Remember. Always, Taemin promised. Enara spoke with Velthar in their language. Taemin could not understand the words, but he saw her gesturing at him and Gina. The commander's expression changed, becoming thoughtful. Finally, Velthar approached Taemin again. Enara wishes to give you something, a gift that is rarely given to those outside our people. He held out a small crystalline device, no bigger than Taemin's thumb. It glowed with that same soft violet light. This is a communicator. It is keyed specifically to you and to Enara's family. When your world is ready, when the time is right, you may use it to contact us. The Narration do not forget debts. We do not abandon friends. Taemin took the crystal, feeling its warmth against his palm. You're saying I could call you? Talk to Gina? When it is safe to do so, yes. It may be years. It may be decades. But the invitation stands. Velthar's stern face softened slightly. You showed us the best of humanity. It would be wrong to simply disappear from your life. The soldiers began preparing to leave. Equipment was packed away with military precision. The temple was already cleaner than when they arrived, all evidence of the battle being removed. Gina clung to her mother but kept looking back at Taemin. She was torn between the joy of being reunited and the sadness of leaving him. Enara said something to her gently, and Gina nodded. She ran to Taemin one last time and hugged him as hard as she could. He knelt down and hugged her back, memorizing the feeling. This small, brave person who had walked into his life by accident and changed everything. Be safe, he whispered. Show the universe how amazing you are. You too, she said in Korean. Then she added in her own language something that the translator rendered as, my first friend from Earth. I will never forget you. She pressed something into his hand. When he looked, it was one of her small crystal formations. It must have broken off during the fight. It still glowed faintly with her life force. So you remember me too, she said. Taemin closed his hand around it carefully. I could never forget you, Gina. Da-un stepped forward. If anyone asks what happened here, what do we say? Tell them you saw unusual lights, strange sounds, but nothing more. Your government will investigate and find nothing. In time, this will become just another unexplained story. Velthar looked at the sky where his ship waited. We are sorry for the disruption to your world. The crash will be dealt with. Earth will be marked as protected. No other species will be allowed to interfere here until you are ready. Protected by who? Taemin asked. By the Narration. By others who believe young civilizations deserve the chance to grow without interference. You are not alone in the universe, Taemin of Earth. You never were. One by one, the soldiers began teleporting back to the ship. Enara and Gina were the last to go. Mother and daughter stood together, both looking at Taemin with gratitude and affection. Thank you, Enara said simply, for everything. Then they were gone in a flash of light. Taemin and Da-un stood in the empty temple as the massive ship rose into the sky. It accelerated impossibly fast, becoming a point of light and then nothing. The stars looked the same as they always had, but Taemin knew better now. Did that really just happen? Da-un asked quietly. Yes, Taemin said. It really did. They stood in silence for a while, processing everything. The fight, the fear, the impossible rescue, the goodbye. Finally, Da-un said, We should get back. People will be looking for us. Questions will need to be answered. What will you tell them? The truth, mostly. I was tracking strange activity. I found you lost in the forest. We sheltered in the temple during a storm. Nothing more interesting than that. She looked at him. What about you? I was camping, got lost, met a helpful ranger, came home. Taemin touched the communicator crystal in his pocket. No one would believe the real story anyway. They hiked back through the forest as dawn broke. The world looked normal. Birds sang, insects buzzed. The forest was alive with everyday sounds. But Taemin saw it all differently now. He thought about Gina somewhere up in space, heading to a new home with her mother. He thought about the hunters that had been destroyed. He thought about Veltar's words, protected, ready, connected. Humanity was being watched, tested, evaluated. And someday, when Earth was ready, the invitation would be there, to join something bigger, something vast. Taemin reached his car as the sun fully rose. His phone had dozens of missed calls from Hyunwoo. He would need to explain eventually, though he could never tell the full truth. But he had the memory, he had the crystal, he had the communicator, and he had the knowledge that somewhere out there, a small alien girl was safe with her mother thinking about him. His life would never be the same, and he would not have it any other way. 3 weeks had passed since the night at the temple. Taemin sat in his apartment, staring at the screen of his laptop without really seeing it. The code he was supposed to be writing blurred into meaningless symbols. His mind was elsewhere, as it often was these days. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the small crystal Gina had given him. It still glowed faintly, though the light was dimmer now. He wondered if it would ever go out completely, or if it would glow forever, a tiny piece of alien life preserved in stone. The news had been interesting for the first few days. Reports of unusual lights over the mountains. Government investigations that found nothing. Scientists giving interviews about meteors and atmospheric phenomena. Conspiracy theorists posting blurry photos and wild theories. But as Velthar had predicted, there was no proof. Within a week, the story had died down. Life returned to normal for everyone except those who knew the truth. Taemin's phone rang. It was Hyunwoo, calling for the 3rd time that day. "Are you going to keep avoiding me?" his friend asked when Taemin finally answered. "You disappeared for 3 days, came back looking like you fought a war, and now you won't tell me anything. I helped you. I deserve to know what happened." Taemin sighed. "You're right. Come over tonight. I'll tell you everything." When Hyunwoo arrived, Taemin made them both coffee and sat down to explain. He told him about finding the crash site, about meeting Da-un, about En-Ara and the hunters and the rescue. He showed him Gina's drawing on his phone, the crystal, the communicator. Hyunwoo listened without interrupting, his expression cycling through disbelief, wonder, and something like jealousy. "So you're telling me," he said slowly when Taemin finished, "that you had first contact with aliens, fought off alien hunters, watched a massive spaceship land on Earth, and now have a direct line to an interstellar civilization? When you say it like that, it sounds crazy." "It is crazy. It's the craziest thing I've ever heard." Hyunwoo leaned back in his chair. "It's also the most amazing thing I've ever heard. Do you realize what this means? What you've been given? I think about it every day. And they said Earth is being protected? That we're being watched? Until we're ready for contact. Until we can handle knowing we're not alone." Hyunwoo was quiet for a long time. "Are we ready? Humanity, I mean. Could we handle it?" Taemin thought about the question. "I don't know. People can be kind, like Da-un helping without hesitation. But people can also be cruel and afraid. Maybe we need more time. Or maybe we'll never be ready until we're forced to be." Hyunwoo picked up the communicator crystal, examining it carefully. "You could use this right now. Call them. Prove to the world that aliens exist. And cause worldwide panic. Religious crises? Wars over who gets access to alien technology? Tae-min shook his head. No. They trusted me to keep this secret until the right time. I won't betray that. You're a better person than me. Hyunwoo set the crystal down gently. So what now? You just go back to writing code and pretend none of this happened? I don't know, Tae-min admitted. Everything feels different now. I look at the stars and know someone up there is looking back. I see people arguing about small things and want to tell them how vast the universe really is. How much bigger our problems could be. He stood and walked to the window. Seoul spread out below his apartment. Millions of people living their lives with no idea that humanity was being evaluated by forces beyond their comprehension. I've noticed other things too, he continued. Small things. I heal faster. Bruises disappear overnight. I can focus better. Think through complex problems easier. The alien medical technology changed me. Enhanced you, Hyunwoo corrected. Velthar said you were enhanced. That's different. That's permanent. I know. Tae-min touched the faint scar on his side where the hunter had clawed him. I'm not quite human anymore. Not quite alien. Something in between. A thought occurred to him. What if that's the point? What if I'm supposed to be the bridge? When the time comes for contact, someone needs to speak for both sides. Someone who understands both. That's a heavy burden to carry. I didn't ask for it, but I'm not going to run from it either. Over the following weeks, Tae-min tried to return to his normal life, but normal felt like a costume that no longer fit. He went to work. He met friends. He did all the things he used to do, but his mind was always elsewhere. He started spending more time researching. Not just alien life, but human readiness for contact. He read about first contact scenarios, about cultural exchange, about the psychology of discovering you're not alone. He wanted to understand, to prepare for whatever might come. Da-eun called him sometimes. They had formed an odd friendship through their shared experience. She had gone back to her ranger duties, but she admitted the forest felt different now. I keep looking for signs, she told him over the phone. Footprints that don't belong, burns that shouldn't exist. I know they cleaned everything up, but I can't help searching. Do you regret helping? Tae-min asked. No, never. But I understand what Velthar meant about carrying a burden. I see people worrying about everyday problems, and I want to shake them. Want to tell them how small those problems are, how much more is out there. But we can't. No, we can't. So we just carry it alone. Not alone, Tae-min said. We have each other. And someday, maybe others will know too. One night, 2 months after the encounter, Tae-min was awakened by a soft chiming sound. He sat up, confused, then realized it was coming from the communicator crystal. It was glowing brighter than it had in weeks, pulsing in a rhythmic pattern. With shaking hands, he picked it up. The crystal projected a small hologram into the air above his palm. Gina's face appeared, smiling. She spoke in her language, but somehow Tae-min understood. The crystal was translating, feeding the meaning directly into his mind. Tae-min, I hoped this would work. I've been practicing with the communicator. Mother said it was too soon, but I wanted to try. Gina! Tae-min's voice caught. Are you okay? Where are you? We're on the colony ship, heading to a new world. It's beautiful. You would love it. There are others like us, refugees who escaped. We're going to build a new home together. She looked older somehow, though only 2 months had passed, more confident. The trauma of being lost and hunted was fading, replaced by hope. I think about you every day, she continued. About Earth. About how kind you were when you could have been scared. Mother tells everyone the story. You're famous among our people. The human who risked everything for a stranger. I just did what anyone should do. But most don't. That's what makes you special. Gina's smile faded slightly. I miss you. Is that strange? We only knew each other for a few days. It's not strange, Taemin said. I miss you too. They talked for an hour, the crystal somehow maintaining the connection across impossible distances. Gina told him about the ship, about the other refugees, about the plans for their new colony. Taemin told her about his life, though it felt small in comparison. Before the connection ended, Gina grew serious. Taemin, things are changing in the galaxy. The Kresh are becoming bolder. Other species are choosing sides. War might be coming, but there are also alliances forming, groups who want to help younger civilizations like yours. What does that mean for Earth? It means your world won't stay isolated forever. Maybe in your lifetime, maybe sooner, you'll have to choose. Join the galactic community or stay alone. When that time comes, people like you will matter. People who understand both sides. I'll be ready, Taemin promised. After the connection ended, he sat in the darkness of his apartment, processing everything. The universe was so much bigger and more complicated than he had imagined, and somehow, impossibly, he had a role to play in it. The next morning, Taemin made a decision. He called Hyunwoo and Da-eun and asked them to meet him. When they arrived, he showed them the communicator. Gina contacted me last night. We need to start preparing, not just us, but others. People who can handle the truth. People who will be ready when contact happens. You're talking about building a network, Hyunwoo said. Secret, but ready to act when needed. Exactly. Scientists, politicians, teachers, people in positions to help guide humanity when the time comes. We can't tell them everything, but we can prepare them, plant seeds of thought. That could take years, Da-eun pointed out. Then we have years. Velthar said it might be decades before open contact. We'll use that time wisely. They talked for hours, planning and debating. It felt good to have a purpose, to be working towards something bigger than themselves. Months passed. Taemin's life developed a new rhythm. During the day, he was a normal software developer. But at night, he worked on what they started calling the project, identifying people who showed wisdom and compassion, people who might be ready for the truth when the time came. He noticed the enhancements more now. He could go days without sleep if needed. His mind made connections faster. He picked up new languages easily, as if his brain had been rewired for communication. Sometimes he wondered if the Narration had known this would happen, if they had enhanced him specifically to prepare him for his role as a bridge between worlds. One evening, nearly a year after finding Gina in that alley, Taemin stood on his balcony looking at the stars. The city lights made most of them invisible, but he knew they were there. Billions of stars, billions of worlds, billions of possible civilizations. And somewhere out there, a small alien girl was starting a new life on a new world, thinking about the human who had helped her. His phone buzzed. A text from Hyunwoo. Found 3 more candidates. All show high empathy scores and open-mindedness. When should we approach? Taemin smiled. The work continued. A shooting star crossed the sky above Seoul. Or maybe it was not a shooting star. Maybe it was a ship passing through human space, watching and evaluating. Taemin touched the crystal in his pocket, feeling its warmth. His life had changed forever that night in the alley. He had gone from being ordinary and alone to being part of something vast and important. The universe was watching, and through him, humanity was beginning to watch back. He typed a response to Hyunwoo. Let's meet them next week. We have work to do. Then he looked up at the stars one more time and whispered, I'm ready. When you are, I'm ready. The stars twinkled in response, keeping their secrets. But Taemin knew that someday those secrets would be revealed. And when that day came, humanity would not face it unprepared. Because one man had chosen kindness over fear. had chosen to help a lost child instead of looking away. And that single choice had changed everything. The universe was vast and full of wonders and dangers, but it was also full of possibilities, and Tae-min was going to make sure humanity was ready to embrace them all. His life would never be the same. And standing there under the stars, feeling the weight of knowledge and responsibility, he smiled. He would not have it any other way.